stunning looks than swift.
It all comes down to this semi-finals time at the Cricket World Cup, and it starts with the hot favourites, with the hosts, with the team that dominated, but their level of performance needs to match the occasion, because it'll all count for nothing if India do not get the better of a familiar foe in New Zealand at this stage of the tournament. New Zealand, who know how to win semi-finals. New Zealand, who are eyeing a third straight World Cup final. So all to play for at the Wankhede Stadium in the first semi-final as we build up to India versus New Zealand on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Qatar Airways. We'll be joined by Matthew Hayden very shortly. Anil Kumble is here, nice and ready and on time, as I'm sure the Indian team would be. Sometimes the occasion merits, can't wait to get there, can't wait to get in the middle. You sense India would be feeling like that, Anil?
Yeah, I'm sure both teams would be feeling that way. You know, you can't be waiting to get the game started because this is a semi-final of a World Cup. Yes, the occasion is really big. It's at home. India will certainly feel that. But you know, once you look around, once you're past that boundary rope, and once you look around, it's only going to be blue everywhere, and it will feel at home. So it's just that feeling of familiarity certainly helps the home side. Of course, New Zealand will certainly feel the noise from the crowd overwhelming, and I mean, it'll be a good game of cricket.
Yeah, I can't help but think, while we are supposed to be objective when we cover the game, regardless of where we are from, the last couple of days, you're just reflecting on just how good India have been. You know, when you finally get a break, you can't help but think, it doesn't matter that, I'm not saying it because it's India, but they've played so well. It would be such a shame if they are to have one bad game today. So, do you feel that sentiment too, that they deserve to make the final with nothing against New Zealand, just the standard they played, it shouldn't all end today?
No, yes, of course. I mean, I feel the same too. I mean, India have been dominating throughout this competition with the ball, with the bat, and the kind of template and the personality that they have shown on the field in terms of the dominance. You know, right from ball one, skipper Rohit Sharma leading from the front in the power play, and the fast bowling attack complemented by the two spinners. Overall, in this 9 matches, you know, India have certainly looked dominating, and they deservedly should be in the final. But it's not just a walkthrough. I mean, it can't be, because we know that New Zealand will be formidable, and we also know that New Zealand sort of look at the process and not necessarily get overawed. We have seen them go past the lesser teams with ease. Yes, they had a hiccup. 4 games they won, and then 4 they lost, and they had to go past Sri Lanka, which they did in Chinnaswamy Stadium. So New Zealand is a formidable opponent. They are good quality, but India currently is right on top with the form that they're showing.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about this as a matchup, and it's well known in recent years. Is this the bogey team for India? We discussed that at length before India versus New Zealand and Dharamshala earlier in the tournament. Just putting these teams up together, one against the other, and you'll see the record in ICC Men's World Cups. You don't need to be reminded of the dramatic happenings of the 2-day semi-final in Manchester in 2019. But 2-0, and Kane Williamson's, of course, getting ready for what will be his 4th World Cup semi-final. Extraordinary feat. In ODI World Cups, it's 5-4 to New Zealand. In all formats since 2004, 5-1. This is ICC events, of course, that we speak of, and such a good knockout record. You almost sense, Anil, that all the pressure is on India.
No, certainly the pressure will be on India because of the kind of cricket that India has been playing. You know, everybody will be hoping that, you know, the same kind of cricket will continue even today from, you know, all the supporters backing India. So yes, New Zealand are up against. They'll have to certainly put their best show. Probably, you know, the only game that India sort of you know, came close in that game was against New Zealand. In terms of the way they had to fight the last batter, recognized batter coming in, and then putting that partnership with Virat Kohli, Ravindra Jadeja doing that for India. 274 they chased down in Dharamshala. Perhaps New Zealand will think that they got 20-25 runs to less in that game. They were in a position where they could have gone on and scored 300, 320. So those are thoughts that I'm sure if New Zealand will bat first, or if they're looking to bat first, then that's something that they will keep in mind as well. You can't just be happy with 270. You need that additional 20 runs against this team.
Now, toss will take place in a few minutes, and how crucial could this toss be? We've discussed that at length building up to this game. Anil had his say too about India, who seem to be a batting first team now, especially with the movement we've seen at the Wankhede Stadium in games before. And now to add a little more drama to it this morning, some news, interesting news. Don't know the last time I remember reading ahead of a World Cup semi-final that there is a shift from one pitch to the other. Firstly, let me get your reaction to it. Why has a pitch been changed, do you reckon?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It's very surprising that the pitch has changed from whatever reports that we are reading. Yesterday, all the equipment for broadcast was set up for the previous, for the pitch. And now today it seems like they've moved to the surface that was used by Afghanistan, Australia, and a couple more other matches. So I'm not really sure why that's been done. But at the Wankhede, if you look at generally, at the surface generally helps the batters and it comes on nicely, so it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, this is pitch number 6, we believe now, the same as was for England, South Africa, where of course Klaasen scored that 100, South Africa got 399, England were blown away for 170, and then India, Sri Lanka, where India got in excess of 350 and Sri Lanka were bowled out for 55 or so. So it was supposed to be pitch number 7, which is the centre strip at the Wankhede, which we believe is a fresh wicket, and whatever reasons there may have been, it has been moved aside. Would this affect the players in any way, do you sense, either the visiting team or even the home team?
No, I don't think it affects the home team. I'm not really sure how the visiting team would look at this. You don't want, when you're playing a game of cricket, whether you're home or away or playing a semi-final or playing the starting of a World Cup or any match for that matter, the last thing that you should be looking at is your pitch. You don't need to worry about if the pitch, thought of a pitch as to that doubt, if it creates a doubt, then you have a problem. So that's something that you don't want. I'm sure if at all New Zealand would be sort of thinking, saying, oh, why have they changed the pitch, will this turn? So that's something that you don't want as well. So pitches you don't need to worry about in a 50-over game. And the last thing, this Indian team has performed across 9 matches, across different venues, across different conditions, and they've been dominating. So why do you need to even think about a pitch?
Yeah. Could it, in other ways, though, also upset what you may have decided you would do selection-wise? And maybe New Zealand were considering Kyle Jameson. They had an idea of the Wankhede Stadium, and suddenly, either on the eve of the game or this morning, they're looking at it and saying, do we have to play Nish Sodhi, or do we have to play a different combination?
No, it could happen. It certainly happened to us in 2003. Previous to the match, I think one day prior to the match, it was very clear that we're going to bat first. If you win the toss, and then suddenly when you go there's cloud cover, there's a bit of rain, and suddenly the pitch is a little bit damp.
You speak of the World Cup final.
World Cup final, yes, of course, I'm sorry. World Cup final. And then there's a bit of cloud cover, the match starts, although on time, but then when you go there, it's still drizzling.
Yes.
And then it's covered, and then you feel, oh, okay, maybe we should bowl first. And that's exactly what happened. So those thoughts can happen to a side which comes with clear thinking the previous night, and then there's this shift in the way things are presented on the day of the match, and then you sort of then change tactics or change at least your thought process, which normally is not a good thing.
All right, just as the coin goes up at the Wankhede Stadium, on that crucial note, it looks like Rohit Sharma has won the toss. So that is big news here, given what we do believe is a bit of a pattern developing at the Wankhede Stadium. The only game one chasing here was the Glenn Maxwell game, which you wouldn't necessarily look at as the ideal template for a team wanting to chase a score. India will bat first in the semi-final of the World Cup. No surprises, but how big a toss and how relaxing do you sense winning the toss might be on an occasion like this?
I think from an Indian perspective, I think this will relax India a lot more, because we know that things do happen in the second half. The first 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes, the 15, 16 overs, there's a little bit of swing. Certainly it'll relax the batters. You can go and just set up a total, and then hope that the fast bowlers will pick up early wickets. From a New Zealand perspective, I think they've preferred to chase generally, so it shouldn't affect them too much. But given the conditions, given the nature of how teams have struggled, especially in the first 15 overs in the second half of the match, certainly it will be advantage India.
Well, advantage India, and you sense now that this is how this team likes to set up. We saw that in the last few games. India won the first 5 chasing. The next 4, they were batting first. So that's now 5 in a row that India will have the job of putting the runs on the board. And this in a World Cup semi-final. Speaking of World Cup semi-finals, how much would this mean to the likes of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, as we just look at India's last 4 semi-finals in World Cup cricket, in white ball cricket. This is across formats, of course. And it's well documented. You must have followed the numbers for, say, Virat Kohli in World Cup knockout games. It's not great. And then you also have a little quick revision of history. 2015 in Australia, MS Dhoni was captain, as he was even in the T20 World Cup in India in 2016. Under Virat Kohli in 2019, the heartbreak of Manchester that we just spoke about. And then 2022 in last year's T20 World Cup. I guess this 15 to 22 also happens to be the Kohli-Rohit generation, when they came to their peak. What would this day sort of be doing to them? How would you perhaps want to advise? Can you even advise them right now? Because you sense there is this resolve to want to go all the way this time, but you know what's happened in the past. And this may be your last chance.
Yeah, I know. I think every time you play a World Cup, I said this at the start of the World Cup as well, that every time you play a World Cup, you go in thinking that this is your last chance. I mean, you don't want to think that, even if it's a Shubman Gill. I know that Shubman Gill certainly has, another 10, probably 3 more World Cups or 4 World Cups, you never know, even more. But every player there needs to start thinking that this is your last chance. I mean, that's the best approach that you need to take. I mean, if you start thinking that, okay, I have another chance, yes, it's a good way to sort of get into a semi-final or understand that, okay, I want to relax and I don't need to have that pressure of a semi-final. But bottom of it, you know that this is your last chance. And I'm sure both Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, we know that for India, these 2 batters have been critical in these 9 matches. Either one of them has to score big or 2 or both of them. And in this World Cup, both of them have fired, which has been the key, and that's been the success story of this batting lineup. So in that sense, these 2 will certainly look to be going there and then ensuring that India puts up a good score. And this, like you said, is their last chance.
All right. Well, it's such a settled team, though. And you could have picked the Indian 11 easily now. It's one of the perhaps rare things in any team to not only have a team dominate the way India have had, but to have pretty much every player at the top of his game or in form. Suryakumar Yadav has not had much opportunity, and Shubman Gill is certainly showing signs of getting back to his best. He's not got the triple-figure score, but he's looked impressive with 1 innings after the next. Otherwise, everyone ticks boxes there. So India go in unchanged, and it is a rare thing, Anil, for a team to not only be favourites, but to have pretty much all your players in form.
Yeah, it is a rare thing, and if it happens to be in a World Cup, all the better. And the best part about World Cups is when you know that you're not going to change the side. And the same sort of playing 11 continues to play from almost game 1. We've seen that the template has been similar, except for a couple of games early on when we knew that, okay, it's Ashwin or Shardul Thakur. Once Hardik has, sort of been ruled out of this World Cup, it was very evident that Shami comes in, Surya comes in, and that's going to be the playing 11 unless you see a rank turner. So it's a good thing that you have the same team going into the World Cup, knowing fully well that the playing 11 know that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to play. So there's been no change, and the tactics don't change. Everyone knows their roles. Mohammad Shami knows when he's going to come into bowl. The 2 spinners know exactly what to do. The batters know exactly how to complement in case, who you have as your partner at the other end. So yes, it's all sort of, it's a nice team to be in where everyone has been performing their respective roles.
Yeah, I guess India was so sorted that even the thought of a used surface doesn't tempt you into saying, oh, should we play Ashwin here? I mean, I guess it doesn't even seem like it was going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Unless you saw something really different, where you know that from ball one it's going to turn, then maybe yes. But I mean, even a used surface at Wankhede is a good batting surface.
Yeah. Yep. All right. What about the New Zealand team? Now, some thought on whether they might just surprise India, go a bit left field, give Kyle Jamieson a game. As it turns out, they've gone with the exact same team that got the job done towards the end of the league stage, beat Sri Lanka and managed to pick up that fourth spot all to themselves. So the fifth bowling option will have to be made up by a mix of Glenn Phillips, Daryl Mitchell and Rachin Ravindra. Now, Ravindra has bowled significantly in this tournament already. But it was concerning, perhaps, Anil, whether they can rely on that in a World Cup semi-final now that they're bowling first. Thoughts on New Zealand not changing their team?
No, because I think it helps them bowling first. Also, you rule out the dew and the ability of, wet ball, especially with Ravindra and Glenn Phillips bowling with a wet ball. Santner is used to it. With just the four bowlers, regular bowlers, the fifth bowler, always a bit of a challenge. So India can take those bowlers on. But one good thing working in favour of New Zealand, especially to Rachin Ravindra, is the top six of them are all right-handers.
Correct.
So he can come in and bowl his left-arm spin. It's going to be a dry ball, good surface, used surface, so probably some turn as well. So I think, overall, it certainly favours New Zealand to pick the same team.
All right. Well, like I said, Anil Kumble is here nice and early, but it's not like we're going to keep him all by himself over here. Finally, it takes one of the great occasions of the game to have the great Danny Morrison make his debut over here. And what a stage and what a game to have him here. Good evening, Danny. How are you doing?
Okay, Anil. Yeah, very good. Yeah, just a few technical glitches. And I can tell you, being in this part of the world of Queensland, there's a big electrical storm coming down, and it's thunder and lightning, so it's all go.
So you're going to struggle to watch the end of a thrilling game where perhaps New Zealand make it to their third straight World Cup final, Danny.
Yeah, and that's coming from you two there in Hollywood, and a lot of expectation, haven't you? Because this is it. This is the bogey side. It's quite freaky. And reading through those stats over the recent days, what has happened when India have taken on New Zealand. So, yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how it goes. I believe the toss has gone the way of India.
Yes.
And they're going to bat first. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right, Danny. Yeah.
So, Danny, hi, Danny. It's great to see you. Just one question. What do you think? I mean, New Zealand would prefer chasing, or would they have preferred batting first?
I think they like that formula of, chasing, going up front and bowling first and doing that discipline first. You're so right. Personally, I would have loved to and seen the pressure certainly go on India by batting first and posting it in the day. So you've got daylight hours, and then, of course, you've got the night time to bowl second. Does the dew factor? Not so much in November, as we know, Anil. I just also think runs on the board and the pressure for India, yes, it's playing at home and that can be like the 12th and 13th man for you, but also that weight of expectation, as we all appreciate, can be very demanding. And so I'd love to see New Zealand get made, 370, 380, 390 even, and then let's see how well you can go chasing something of that magnitude.
We were just discussing a little while back, Danny. I was listening to Simon Dool as well on the build-up of all the pressure on India, he says, and not really on New Zealand, which I find interesting, and of course we can understand that. But for a team that's made 2 World Cup finals, this is Williamson's last, this could be Southey's last, this could be Bolt's last. Somewhere, they also know they've fallen short. How much pressure genuinely do you sense New Zealand would be feeling? Or do they not feel any in these games?
Oh, look, I think definitely you're going to feel pressure because there's, I think, pride in your own performance. And as you rightly say, RK, they've been to 2 World Cup finals in a 50-over format and have been bridesmaid on both of them. The last one pretty freakish, very freakish in a way. And so having been in that realm there where, as you're probably aware, rugby dominates and cricket, there is that less expectation for a country of 5 million versus the land of 1 billion and somewhat, 1.5 billion now, and how much it means to India. And of course, we all know this. But you're right. I think for Williamson, they would certainly love to go out on a high, and the guys you've mentioned there, they're getting a bit long in the tooth now. But again, I think that bodes well for New Zealand. We do quite well in the 50 over World Cup. We got to a lot of semis, finally got to some finals, still haven't lifted the trophy. But again, and Dooley and a few of us go, well, no, you can't say we're punching above our weight. You play all this cricket. There's a thing called the IPL now, and everyone shares information, shares dressing rooms, chat about stuff, and really do mix that information and get all that experience in these conditions. So New Zealand are a good side. There's no doubt about it. But they are up against the big form side, and the form side are playing at home. But I think they'll feel pressure, and I think the bowling attack, particularly early on, for Bolt and Southey and Ferguson to get wickets up front is so key. And then when it's their turn to bat, New Zealand, when you think about up against Shami and Bumrah, pretty unique. And Suraj as well, don't forget about him. Those guys are very talented, and there'll be nerves on both sides because they'll want to just perform so well and make it into another final at least.
All right, well, that point, let's go to the first contest that we're expecting to see. India will bat first, and we brought up the point of how every player is in form. This is a great stat to want to look at. All of their top five through the course of this league phase have tasted the pleasure of having a World Cup 100, with the exception of Shubman Gill, who's managed a few 50s, but Kohli averages nearly 100. Rohit Sharma at 56, but a strike rate. You throw in a strike rate, then that'll be the standout number for the Indian captain. Shreyas, Rahul, Shubman. And between them, let's do the math quickly, that's 15 50s and 5 hundreds. This is a marked improvement from what we saw in 2019, that India had a vulnerability if they lose their top order. This is the difference, isn't it, Anil?
Oh, this is the difference. And also, if you look back at the 2019 World Cup, just around the knockout phase, India had to make those changes because of Shikhar Dhawan's injury. So that didn't help India as well. So this is certainly going into a semi-final. You can't ask for a bigger and better top five in great shape and great numbers as well going into this tournament. I mean, all of them have scored 50s, 100s, and Shubman Gill, is just around the corner, the way he's batting.
Yeah.
So it could be today. It could be his day. So, yes, in that sense, this is the perfect top five batters that you can have.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not showing those numbers, Danny, to the New Zealand bowlers. Let me pick the numbers they are showing, though. Rohit versus Bolt and Southey. This is something that Trent Bolt and Tim Southey would be delighted with. Just have a look at these numbers here. The matchups that we discussed, Rohit was key. He always is key in this World Cup. He decided to step out and take down Trent Bolt and Dharamshala. The average is in the 20s. The strike rate is less than 70, and 9 dismissals in 28 innings against Bolt and Southey for Rohit Sharma. What sort of intent do you see from Rohit today, Danny? In a big World Cup semi-final, he's decided to go all guns blazing, and Bolt and Southey seem to still have the wood over him.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And Anil will know this too. When you're up against a certain opposition and certain batters that you've dined out with and have, the wood on them, as it were, RK. I look at it, it's a great stage. It's Wankhede. Geez, Rohit's in blue again, a bit like a certain franchise team he plays for there in India. When I look at that on his home patch, it's all geared for him. But as you show those numbers, and Anil will appreciate this too, good players nick good deliveries. And it doesn't have to be swinging miles and what have you. It just has to go enough. Just a little bit of curve in the air, going across the batter or away from him. And I think when Anil made a great point, there's a lot of right-handers at the top. Bolt likes that. And Southey, not as quick as he used to be, but certainly that lovely bit of movement in the air. And it doesn't have to be prodigious. So, again, I think Bolt and Southey, that lovely old duo together, if they can get their length, they find that beautiful searching length that Mohammad Shami is consistently finding so well, so often of late, to get the ball just to go, just enough in the air, as I say, just a little bit of curve, a little bit of shape, and I say, good players and good delivery.
Yeah. Do you sense it's the same Rohit Sharma today, even in a semi-final?
Yeah, he will. He will come at the bowler. He would like to stamp his authority, and, I don't see that changing. Now that India is batting first, he will certainly come at the bowler. Yes, there will be some swing for both these two fast bowlers. If New Zealand were bowling second, then you would probably see the swing to be slightly more extended towards the 10th, 15th over as well. But since they're bowling first, it will probably last about the first 6-7 overs. and then, if you can just take the bowlers on, yes, you need to still respect good deliveries, and both these bowlers are high quality. They bowl the right areas, so Rohit will still look to come hard at them. I mean, he did that against against Bolt in Dharamshala. Since then, Bolt has certainly come good. Against Sri Lanka, I thought he bowled exceptionally well. He was not getting the swing back into the right-hander early in the tournament, but he certainly came back well against Sri Lanka, where he got his lines, length, and also the swing back.
Yeah.
So that certainly augurs well for New Zealand.
All right. Well, they've dominated India's batters, but they're up against a trio who don't necessarily enjoy bowling at the Wankhede Stadium. This is about India surely wanting to make the finals with the kind of league stage campaign they've had. Have we seen this sort of domination? Let's crunch the numbers a little. Yash Jha is the man following the Indian team right through this World Cup, and he's crunched the numbers for us, looking at how well they did in the league stage. Have a look.
India entered the semi-finals of the Men's ODI World Cup for the 4th edition running on the back of what has been not just their most dominant run ever in the tournament, but what ranks arguably among the most dominant campaigns ever witnessed in the competition's history. One look at their results through the league phase is enough to reveal it. Only that Australian side from 2007 can claim to have bossed their opposition more in one edition of the World Cup. Almost everywhere you see in 2023, India have ruled the roost. With bat, they are the only side to have averaged over 50 runs per wicket. Among all others, only New Zealand have touched 45. India also have the most 50-plus scores in the competition, all while chugging along at well over a run a ball. They've been led by their two stalwarts, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Both are part of the 500 club, which only two other batters have made so far this tournament. India's bowlers, meanwhile, have a case to be considered among the best bowling attacks ever seen at any Men's ODI World Cup. Why is that? They have, by some distance, the best average of any bowling attack in this competition, while also being by far the most economical bowling unit. The dominance extends when you look across phases of the game, but perhaps the standout feature is how India have stamped their authority at the start of the innings with both bat and ball. They've been the fastest scoring team in the power play and also the most efficient bowling side. How do you make up for being the side that's doing the most travel through a World Cup? With one-sided contests and early finishes. The second innings of India's games through the league stage, on average, lasted just about 35 overs. They've done it 9 times over, they've ticked almost all boxes, but India will know that for their legacy to be cemented, they need to do it 2 more times.
And it will not be easy. New Zealand do not bottle semi-finals. That's one thing we do know. And we have had Danny Morrison make his debut in a semi-final, put him under pressure straight away. The crowd is building up though. As we approach the first ball, we've taken Danny's next door neighbour from Queensland now and brought in good old Matthew Hayden.
Yep, a couple of rude heads, so we've kept it consistent.
The cue balls.
Yeah. Don't we love a bit of no hair, Danny?
Yeah. Nice and cooling.
It's a big day. It's a huge day. I mean, for New Zealand to think, you've got 20 years of consistent semi-finals, through this campaign is an incredible effort considering just the numbers alone of a country as the size of New Zealand. And just it's the way that they've built brand New Zealand as well. Yeah. They've come in with a very, very structured, very consistent plan. They've got a masterful tactician in their captain, Kane Williamson, who's also going to have to play a big role in this run chase as well today. And they're just consistently across the board, been superb in the field. Not so much in this World Cup. They've been a little down on their catching efficiencies and a little down on their ground fielding as well. So that'll be one area that I'm sure Kane will want to address today.
It's interesting you say that, because Danny a little while back was making just that point of perhaps now the story needs to go beyond, we punch above our weight and whatnot. These guys play high-profile cricket round the year. They've made finals and semi-finals. We've got to start winning it now. And especially for what it could do for cricket in New Zealand.
Well, they got robbed in the last World Cup. Robbed. Danny? You got robbed in the last World Cup.
Yeah.
It was a poor way to finish, that campaign. But again, you can only do, what you've got within a team. 4 years is a very long time. So you keep building towards a World Cup, and at the pointy end of the stick, a lot of things have to go right for you. So, You know, potentially that is today, New Zealand being a giant killer.
Yep. All right. What can we expect of the Wankhede in this particular game? Let's recap the games we've had so far in the tournament here. South Africa played England, where you saw Klaassen get 100, de Kock get out. No, de Kock got early there, but Klaassen got the big 100, and England were blown away for 170 after South Africa got 399. As we just have a look at some of the power play scores and some of the trends and patterns that could develop at the Wankhede Stadium. So South Africa were 59 for 1, and they went on to get 399. England, they lost 4 in the first 10. They eventually folded for 170. They lost by 229. India lost Rohit Sharma of the second ball, but they just paced their way as they do to get to 350 plus. Then Shami and Bumrah and Siraj blew Sri Lanka away. Game done in 10 overs. South Africa against Bangladesh. Steady start from South Africa. Big score again. Bangladesh folding for almost a 150 run margin deficit. And then Afghanistan-Australia, the Mad Maxwell game, where Australia thought they were following that same pattern, but for Glenn Maxwell. If you're looking at this, Anil, what do you sense could be the trend for this semi-final? Will we see a 300 plus big score, or will it change in a semi? And what would you advise the team chasing?
No, I certainly think that it will be a 300 plus score, although it's a used surface that India is playing on. What you need to look at is not the first column. I mean, yes, 59 for 1, it's the wickets column, especially when you're batting second. So even from an Indian perspective, when they're batting first, yes, you may be looking at around 50, 55 to be in the power play, first power play, but what you don't want is not to lose more than 1 wicket. You don't want to lose 1 wicket or more. I mean, you know, if you lose 3 wickets, then you're in trouble.
Yep.
If you're losing 2 wickets and scored more runs, then you're still okay. But you don't want to lose wickets in that power play and give the advantage to New Zealand. So even if you score around the 50, 45, 50, you'll still get to 300 plus, because that's something that you can achieve at the Wankhede. So that's something that I think New Zealand will have to be aware of when you're chasing, you know, how can you not lose wickets in that power play? Because that's where most of the damage has been caused. Even the game against Australia and Afghanistan, yes, Maxi's brilliance, but the damage was caused in that power play.
Yeah, and even get a little more specific than that, maybe New Zealand says, look, we can't afford to lose our wicket to Bumrah. It might be worth chancing our arm against the other 2 quicks. You know, Siraj, who can be both sides of the wicket, and Mohammad Shami, who knows, just does Mohammad Shami things. He bangs in at 8 metres. But he keeps doing those things. So as a batter, you've got to go, right, maybe that's an opportunity for us to play this kind of free cricket, if you like. You know, the side that tends to hang on to the result loses semi-finals. You've got to turn those don'ts, the double negative, into the do's. So as a strategy, for example, it might be, we are going to target someone like Suraj, or whomever that it is within that lineup, because clearly you can't score it 6s and over without some risk. So it might be where and when you lose the wickets, to Anil's point, but at some point you've got to grab this game in a big match by the horns and have a red-hot dip. That's what both of these teams will be expecting to do.
Does the onus fall on their bowlers, though, Danny, to ensure they don't let India outbat them in the first innings? New Zealand have to stay in the game with a 270, 260. Then you can perhaps close down against Bumrah. So do you sense the first innings is more important here, looking at how challenging it's been for the batters in the second innings of the Wankhede?
Yeah, and I also think about what the 2 guys are saying there in studio with you, is that the first 15 overs are so vital. And you've had some of the stats gurus going about don't lose the game inside the first 15 overs. But as we've seen, and you've just shown those lovely stats in previous games, is that bowlers that can initiate and find a groove and are willing to really attack and be supported by their skipper with the fields that they're wanting to bowl to, then you've got a great opportunity. And I think this is where it's at. This is on the line. Whether New Zealand wanted to bat first or bowl first, doesn't matter. They're doing something that they've been regularly doing, and that is go up front as a group and bowl first and try and make inroads. And so that really does fall on the old duo together, Bolt and Southey, with a bit of Ferguson inside that first part of the power play. They have to get people out, and it's as simple as that.
All right. Well, the stage is set for the semi-final. Rohit and Shubman have walked out, and what I can only imagine is an unparalleled atmosphere, the Wankhede Stadium, which will host its last game of this tournament, with David Beckham walking out as well as the players. I can't believe I'm stuck with the three of you here. I haven't gone to the studio.
I would love to.
Damn it.
Just watch his series on Netflix. I would have loved to have seen him.
Yes, I know. We still have time.
Probably Posh, actually, I would have preferred to see.
Stop it, Hados. Yeah.
Oh, having a few tattoos.
Behave, gentlemen. Let's wrap the show now before any of us get into trouble. Let's get a first innings prediction. Anil Kumble, Matthew Hayden, Danny Morrison. What are we going to see?
I'll go with 3-1-5.
3-1-5 for India. It's good
I'm
score
going
in
to
the
up the ante. I
semi-final.
was pathetic last time. I'm going to go 360.
I must point out, Danny, Hados said in the preview, recorded preview to this game, he feels like India are going to smash New Zealand. After saying all the hygienic things, but he said India are going to smash New Zealand.
I hear you. Well, they're in that sort of mode, aren't they? They're in that groove. It just feels like a snowball going down the side of a hill. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it? And keeps smashing it. So, yeah, I can see them getting 350 plus, no doubt.
Wow. None of you are giving the good old Kiwis a chance. Let me do that then. Let me throw that in for the semi-final. I think we're going to get a really good one. This is going to be a 270 sort of
Great.
game. 260, 270. Still think India should win, but it'll keep us interested. Thank you very much, Danny Morrison, Matthew Hayden, Anil Kumble. These fine gentlemen with us at the end of the India innings to see where the semi-finals stand. So join us then on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Qatar Airways. Download the mobile app if you haven't already. It's the World Cup semi-final. The story is all about India. New Zealand know how to crash their party. Let's see where the game stands in 50 overs time.
Stunning looks, then swift,